Hi guys, welcome to today's screencast on the cardiovascular system. So we've looked at the skeletal system and the muscular system. What it's time for now is the cardiovascular system. After this we have got the energy systems to do and the respiratory systems. So first of all, cardiovascular system. You may have heard this being referred to as a circulatory system before. What it entails is it's the heart, the blood and the blood vessels. That is what the cardiovascular system is made up of. So today's screencast, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at the structure of the heart as well as the structure of blood vessels. So we've got two things to look at. First of all, I'm going to go through the basics of the heart, and then you're going to jot down the names of each section you need to know. So first of all, think of the heart as four chambers. Okay, so imagine drawing a box with a line across here horizontally and a line down vertically. This top side here, now on a heart diagram, this is known as the right hand side, this is known as the left hand side. Imagine you're looking through the back of someone. This is the right hand side of the heart. So blood has just been used up by the muscles and now it's deoxygenated, i.e. there's no oxygen left in there. So it needs to go back to the heart to get oxygenated. So what happens is blood travels up through the vena cava, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, which is this blue thing here, comes into the right atrium. Once it's filling into the right atrium, it drips down into this section here, which is called the right ventricle. Now, drips down until the right atrium is full. When the right atrium is full, a contraction occurs. So then the blood goes down into the right ventricle. From here, it goes off to the lungs. So it goes up here, through the pulmonary arteries, this blue thing here, into the lungs, gets oxygenated, and it comes back through the pulmonary veins, these two red things here, and these red things here. They're pulmonary veins, so it comes back from the lungs, oxygenated. So now, in the lungs, gaseous exchange has taken place. The red blood cells have now got oxygen, and it comes through the left atrium, down through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle, and then from the left ventricle it leaves a semilunar valve, which is this thing here, out of the aorta to the body. This is the aorta and this is the biggest artery in our body. So that is how blood flows through the heart. Right atrium, down to the right ventricle, to the lungs, back to the left ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle, to the body. So these are terms you need to know. First of all, this red vessel here is known as the aorta, and that's the biggest artery in the body. That's where blood goes from the heart to the body. We'll start here. You've got the left pulmonary artery. That's where the blood, the oxygenated blood, goes from the heart to the lungs. Then you've got the left pulmonary vein. So oxygenated blood comes back from the lungs through here, into the left atrium. So left atrium, bicuspid valve. This thing here is just a valve. This valve prevents blood going from this chamber back through to that chamber, so it just goes in one direction. So that's the bicuspid valve. Semilunar valve is that thing there. Again, prevents blood going from the aorta down to the ventricle. This is the left ventricle. This part of the heart is called the septum. Then we've got the right ventricle here. Another semilunar valve at the top of the ventricle. You've got the tricuspid valve here that prevents the backflow of blood coming from the right ventricle to the right atrium. This is the right atrium. Then you've got the right pulmonary vein, right pulmonary artery. There's the left. Then you've got the vena cava, is this blue vessel here and here. And as you can see, you've got inferior vena cava, inferior below, superior vena cava, superior above. Okay, so remember at the start I said about that box diagram. You've got right atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle, and then the bottom part of that vertical line would be the septum splitting the two chambers. So that's the structure of the heart. You need to know this. Okay, so get that down and get used to knowing those terms. Right, okay, so your Cornell notes for today are going to be on blood vessels, and we have arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, and veins. So that is the structure. It's actually in that order. So if you have a heart, the heart leaves the blood leaves the aorta of the heart, which is an artery. From the arteries turn to arterioles. From the arterioles are turned to capillaries. Capillaries is where gaseous exchange takes place between the blood vessels and the muscles. From here, you have the transfer of oxygen into muscles and waste product out of the muscles into the venules, into the veins, back to the heart via the vena cava. So, arteries. They carry blood away from the heart. Arteries carry oxygenated blood apart from the pulmonary artery. So you can pause this as many times as you want, guys, just to understand this. Arteries carry blood away from the heart and they carry oxygenated blood apart from the pulmonary artery. So if we come back to here, arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. This is the main artery, comes out of the heart, and then you've got all the arteries in the body that are carrying oxygenated blood. Now, when the oxygenated blood comes back to the heart, when it comes from the right ventricle, because it's leaving the heart again to go to the lungs, it leaves via an artery because arteries go away from the heart. This time it's carrying deoxygenated blood. So this is the only time that an artery carries deoxygenated blood, and that's the left pulmonary artery. Okay, try and get your head around that. And then the structure of it, this is important, the structure. So thick muscular walls to carry blood at high pressure. So you've got to think, when blood is leaving, when blood is being pumped out of the heart, obviously the pressure is going to be really, really big in here because it's such a forceful contraction from here to get this blood all the way around the body. So the contraction's so forceful that the pressure is going to be really high in there, so the walls have to be thick so that it can withstand that pressure. So high pressure, they're elastic as well, which help withstand that pressure, and they do not contain valves. Okay, so from the arteries, the blood then travels to arterioles, and arterioles connect arteries to the capillaries. That's all they do, and they have thinner walls than arteries, and they're responsible for controlling blood flow to the capillaries. After arterioles, we have capillaries. So, capillaries connect arteries and veins by uniting arterioles and venules. Capillaries bring the blood slowly into contact with the muscle for gaseous exchange. So you imagine arteries turn into arterioles, and then from arterioles you have capillaries. Capillaries, that's where all transfusion takes place, gaseous exchange. Hopefully on the next slide you'll understand this a bit better. Structure of them, this is really important, 1 cell thick. So they're thin walls, 1 cell thick. This allows the oxygen, nutrients and waste product to exchange, for that gaseous exchange to take place. If they're really thick walls, the oxygen, carbon dioxide isn't going to get through those walls, so it has to be thin. So it's 1 cell thick. That's really important. Venules, similar to arterioles, they're small vessels that connect the capillaries to the veins. Now this is where, because gaseous exchange has taken place at the capillaries, oxygen has gone into the muscles, deoxygenated blood, or waste product, carbon dioxide, has transferred over from the muscle to the bloodstream. Now the blood is deoxygenated, and it goes from the capillaries to the venules, from the venules to the veins, and veins facilitate venous return. Venous return is blood coming from the body back to the heart. Veins have thin walls, blood is carried at low pressure, and they have pocket valves to prevent the backflow of blood. That's really important, the fact they have valves to prevent the backflow of blood. Imagine trying to get your blood from your feet to your heart. Now, because of gravity, it's going to go back down at some point, isn't it? So these pocket valves make sure that it doesn't go back down all the way, so it keeps getting pumped up towards the heart, and that's what those valves do. So this is just a quick demonstration or a quick diagram, sorry, that's going to explain the kind of process of circulation through the heart. Let's say that the blood has just gone through the process, it's leaving the heart. So blood leaves the left hand side of the heart, gets pumped out the left ventricle to the aorta, from the aorta to the which is an artery, so it goes to the arteries turn into arterioles, And now we're at all body tissues, so let's just say we're at the quadriceps right now. All of a sudden, arterioles turn into capillaries, which are 1 cell thick. From here, gaseous exchange takes place. Now we've got deoxygenated blood, capillaries to venules to veins, from the vena cava to the right hand side of the heart, the right atrium, down to the right ventricle, out the pulmonary artery, back to the lungs. In the lungs, you've got, obviously here you've got arteries, arterioles, capillaries. Gaseous exchange takes place. Our blood is now oxygenated, it has oxygen, goes back through the pulmonary vein, because remember, veins go to the heart, arteries go away from the heart. So oxygenated blood through the pulmonary vein to the left atrium, left ventricle, back out through the aorta to the rest of the body again. And that is the process. So get those notes down, try and understand this for the lesson, and then we'll embed it and go through more in lesson. Thank you. Bye.